Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another fantastic episode of Connecting Greeks. I am Adi. I am in Washington, D.C., waiting for the snow tomorrow. And with me, as always, is my good friend, my Cubano. Actually, if nobody knew that, but my Cubano, Philotimo up in Boston.
Ari, yes, Ari.
How you doing?
I'm also preparing for the storm tomorrow. So yeah.
Well, speaking of storms, we got our good buddy out in what is it, 70-degree LA over here. Angelo Tarugas. How are you, Angelo?
Hi guys, how's it going? Yes, good to see your smiling faces again. Like always, look, I put that picture behind me of the Acropolis, which was on the news here in Los Angeles, and I thought I'll combine my native Canada and my ancestral home of Greece, and we'll put it together. So we got snow on the Acropolis. So
that's a beautiful picture. I love it.
Great pic. Look, it even looks great in the snow. But it's been a great week. Again, always looking forward to doing this with you guys. We always have fun doing this.
Absolutely.
And I have to tell you guys, I'm very excited about our guest this week. A very, very unique man with an amazing story. He was a broker in London, UK, and then we're going to find out he left that and then went on and pursued a dream. And most people never get a chance to do this in their life. And he's an author, he's a television producer, a host, a motivational speaker. And so impressive. He's got these amazing shows. He's on Amazon. He's on Netflix. He's on Nat Geo. He's all over the place. And I would love to welcome to Connecting Greeks this week, Leon Logothetis. Welcome, Leon.
Hey, how are you? That was quite a welcome. Thank you very much. Hopefully,
you're very welcome. Well deserved, Leon. Well deserved. I'm going to tell you, I've been watching the Kindness Diaries. And I was watching it with my wife, and I've seen it before. I've seen you pop up because as a traveling comedian, I was always on the road, and you would pop up on different things. And I never really got a chance to ever continuously watch anything. And we were watching the Kindness Diaries. And right now you're going from Alaska to Argentina. And guys, it's like I've been in places where you're thinking, and it's heartfelt, it's charming. You make people laugh, you make people cry. We sobbed a few times on it because you're bringing this kindness to people, and it's so fitting, Leon, especially with COVID and the way people have been feeling lately. And your story is, I know I don't want to make it a cliche of how you started, but just for our fan base and for everybody else that's been listening, you're a Greek who's a Brit, because I live right.
Yes, I grew up in London.
In London, which I lived for 2 years, which was an awesome city.
Oh, cool.
I really did. And then, if you could tell us, Leon, because I don't want to interrupt you, that you were a very successful broker with a great life, and then you said.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was a broker. I think people listening to this will understand what type of broker I was. I was a shipping broker. So I was involved in the shipping world. Non-Greeks sometimes don't understand what shipping brokers do. So I just say I was a broker. And, on the outside, I had everything you could ever want. On the inside, I had nothing you would ever want. I was very depressed. I felt very alone. I felt very broken, but no one knew, because I was doing what many of us do, right? Which is I was wearing a mask, not the COVID type of mask, just like the psychological mask that tells everyone I'm fine. But often we are not fine. And I ended up watching the movie, The Motorcycle Diaries, which is a romanticized version of Che traveling around South America, relying on kindness. And I just had I've shared this story so many times, but it's the truth. It is how it all began. So I can't not share it. And I saw that there was another way to live. And that way was from like our hearts, from a place of our humanity. And to cut a long story short, I quit my job and started to travel around the world relying on the kindness of strangers. I mean, that's the short version of what happened, but that's basically what happened. And here I am.
It's amazing. Like, it's so inspiring. And I think I've always had this philosophy, and I think a lot of people, but you actually live it and you pursue it. And what I found, so what I was so attracted to the Kindness Diaries is that you're taking chances. Like, you're traveling from Alaska, your car goes off the road, then people stop and pull you out. Then you end up at a gas station, and then there's a guy has a lodge. And the episode with the man, very spiritual man, and he brought you into his house with his son, and then all of a sudden you're like, and then what they don't realize, I think you have that moment where you're thinking that somehow I see that how it affects you, and then you're like, look, because I see that you're so passionate with that man or the African-American girl who wanted to help kids, and you're going to send her to, and I was like, wow, like my wife was, she goes, this is wonderful that you're looking for the goodness in people. And I think, Leon, so many people are in pursuit. Like we live in La La Land. So a lot of times people here, they love using words in LA like organic, family, and real. But we know, those are words. You're living it. I mean, who in their right mind would go to Alaska? You're doing, just so I can encapsulate it, Alaska, guys, to Argentina.
Wow.
Like, we're not going LA to Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's coming right down. And what you go through, and I was like, wow. It takes balls to do something like that, to do that. But what I did like was that, in Greek, to kataphares, right? You brought it together, and you always seem to be able to do that. And it's such a great message, Leon, I think right now for people, because everything's so, we don't know about the economy. We don't know, people can't see their family members. My family's from Canada originally. I haven't seen my mom in a year. It's minus 25 in Montreal. They're all depressed, because of the cold, and then, the elections. And I think it's such a breath of fresh air, because I wanted to ask you, did you write the book first, or did you do was it the book and then the show?
No, I did the show first.
Okay.
Then I wrote the book. Then the show came out. It was, it was just meant to be that way.
Wow.
Great. I mean, because here's the thing I get from it. This is a very introspective thing about human beings. And I think we all have it in us, I think. But if you, like, I know, for example, I'll give an example, Leon. I work on a cruise ship sometimes, and doing shows, stand-up. I take the ship from Bayonne, New Jersey, and we end up in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. Now, you've been to Canada. The Canadians are very friendly in the eastern provinces. So much so that it freaks out the New Yorkers. So I was on the ship, and the guy goes, what's that guy doing? He came close to him. He goes, do you want me to take you guys out? I'll take you out on a tour, and I'll give you this much of a price. And the guy goes, why is he so close to us? And I go, no. Is the guy going to rob us? I go, no, he's from the Maritimes. They're Canadians. And it's funny because, and I like how you do it on your show, because you ask people, hey, can you take me in tonight? And they don't necessarily always say yes, because they don't know who you are, but because you have such a nice aura about it. And some people say, like one woman said, well, what's your name? So that was funny. And then you start talking to them. And I noticed that you pick out a lot of times things about them, like the guy that helped the homeless people on the street. And then you go talk to that person and you find out a little bit about them and how the people will do that. But I think for the most part, coming from the big urban centers, there's a mistrust because you always think you're going to get robbed or someone's going to mug you or something, whether Boston or LA or, New York or even London for that matter, But what I really enjoyed about what your portrayal is that it made me think. And that's the thing I liked about your show. And I looked on your website. By the way, you got a phenomenal website. If you guys we're going to plug it later.
Sure.
Excellent. I don't know who did your website, but it's dope. It's really good. Like, it's just like shit. I'm looking at your website going, I got to get a website like this. That's very informative, easy to find everything, easy to descript everything, and I think it says a lot about you. But do you find when you're doing that, Leon, a lot of the times with people, how do you figure out who's the person you think you could talk to, or like, that's very interesting how it's like a cold play.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a great question. And many people don't see what you see, in the sense that they don't see what it takes to connect with someone. They're just like, oh, you have a camera, it's very easy. It doesn't work that way. You can have a camera and be an asshole and people aren't going to help you. Yeah. Right. You can have a camera and people don't like cameras, so they're not going to help you. So to answer your question, the way I do it, look, I've traveled the world. I've dived into my own pain, which many people don't do. I've felt my darkness, which many people don't do. And that has enabled me to understand humanity. Not like perfect. I'm not like, I'm not perfect about it, but I connect with people from the soul. I connect with people from the heart. I don't go to what's up here. Doesn't mean I don't have the ability to come from here. Of course I do. And we all need to have that. But I connect with someone from down here. I will bypass their mind and I will go to their heart. And look, sometimes it doesn't work, right? Okay,
right.
But sometimes it does, and when it works, it's beautiful, and it's so interesting with the crew. They've got used to my ways. Let's say, I arrive in a city or town or a village or whatever you want to call it, and I just start walking, and they are behind me, 20 meters, 30 meters, whatever, and I just go with the flow. And when I feel like I have to turn left, I turn left. When I feel like I have to turn right, I turn right. I'll see someone and I'll feel, is this the right person for me to talk to? And if that voice says yes, I'll talk to them. If that voice says no, I won't. Again, there's no perfection. Sometimes I fail, but it's really like an intuition. It's an intuition.
Right.
Could I ask a quick question? Have you, is there any standout story of a great success and a standout story of a great failure of trying to connect with strangers?
Sure. I mean, there are many failures, all right? So I go to 10 people and 9 of them say no. So I guess my intuition isn't that great, but there are some great successes. And season 1, the greatest success of all for me was season 1. I was in Pittsburgh and I went up to this guy and I started chatting with him. And I said to him, after talking for a few minutes, I said, can I stay in your house tonight? And he turns around and he says, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm homeless. I feel some shame. I just asked a homeless man who doesn't look homeless to stay in his house. And I'm about to walk off and he turns around and he says, well, you know what, if you want, you can stay with me tonight. I'll feed you, I'll protect you, and I'll give you some clothes. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. And his name was Tony, and he taught me some profound lessons. He taught me that kindness is free, and he taught me that true wealth is not in our wallets, but it's in our hearts. Wow. And part of the twist of the show is that unsuspecting Good Samaritans get a life-changing gift. So me and the crew ended up putting this fellow in an apartment and sending him back to school. Wow. And he always used to say to me, oh, Leon, you changed my life. And I was like, no, you changed my life. Wow. And that's the way I felt it.
That's so cool.
Powerful right there.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, because isn't it funny how a man who you didn't think was homeless said, you know what, whatever I got, I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah.
Yet a guy I know for 8 years at the cigar lounge on his way home is where I live. I go, can you give me a ride home? A guy I've known for 8 years. No, I don't think I can do it. I'm like, what a malaka, right? I'm thinking, well, I've known you for years. He goes, I bought a new car. I go, I just need you to drop me off at my house because my wife had the car. It's interesting what I've learned by watching your show, Leon, and knowing more about you. I always find in life, it's like you just said now, it's the small things that will tell you a lot about a person, as opposed to, you know, people who can have a big home and have a lifestyle and everything, which is nice. That's nice. If that's something you earned or enjoyed, you don't begrudge anybody that. But I always find it's the little things that people do that make a difference. And you know what my mom always said to me, and I want to get to this part with you because I really attach myself to the spirituality that you have also. And I could see it. It comes out with you. And it's all about your upbringing and who you are as a person. And my mom said, if you can't go to church and light a candle, give someone homeless or unfortunate a few dollars. It's the same thing. And I never forgot that. And I found that with you, when you make that decision afterwards, like you did with that young woman or the Tony in Pittsburgh or whoever, it's something that moves you. And what I like about what you do is that as it moves you, it moves me as a person watching it at the same time. And you can't help it. I teared up a couple of times and I'm like, okay, stamata, Leon, you're doing this. But it wasn't like fabricated. It was really, it felt so real. And because it was. And I was like, even, you know, I thought, if we all do a little bit, right? And I think that, do you find that, Leon? I mean, did you notice this before you did this career change? Would you notice those kind of things with people, but just suppress it? Or what was it?
Look, I don't think I noticed it to the same degree that I notice it now, because, you know, I've gone through my own story. I've had my own moments. I've faced my own demons. And when you do that, you become more in tune with your surroundings. You become more in tune with humanity, the good parts of it and the bad parts of it. And prior to going on all these travels, I pretty much stayed in one place. Yeah, okay, I'd been to Greece, I'd been to France, etc., 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 but I hadn't been to a slum in India. I hadn't seen, you know, the poverty in Haiti. I hadn't walked through the streets of Auschwitz. And when you have had those types of experiences, you become more attuned to your surroundings. You become more attuned to the people you call your friends and the people you call your enemies. And it becomes a whole different experience.
Right.
That's amazing. You know, I have so many issues with what's going on in like our country now, and it's sometimes I just wish people could step into other shoes, travel the world, see the highs and the lows of what people have experienced. So, and I think that would change so many people, and it would be so much for the better. And it's amazing that you do that, and I think it's an important message that you're sending.
And I will say that with the Kindness Diaries, we don't just talk about happy things, right? We
Right.
talk about some pretty dark stuff.
Right.
We go to, you know, the killing fields. We go to slave dungeons. You see bad things because the world isn't just, you know, filled with joy. And the world is also not filled with darkness. There's both. So in order to understand one, you have to see the other. In order to see the other, you have to understand one. It's a really important piece of the puzzle. I never wanted it to be like a preaching TV series where everything always works out and don't worry, just be kind and, you know, it'll just be an amazing experience. That's not the world.
No, 100%. And you touched on something as a Canadian, and I was like, wow. I was so, not the word is impressed. You talk to a native Canadian person, I think it was in Red Deer, Alberta, which I've been to many a times. And the man, he was a native Canadian, and Leon starts talking to him, and he tells you that he's a native Canadian. And we got into the conversation, and he tells you right away, because you got about the residential schools in Canada. Now, in America, you know, Canada has this image of being squeaky clean. Everybody loves Canadians, but there's a history there. What I really appreciated, what you did, Leon, when you're talking to this man, he explained that what they tried to do, guys, if you're not aware of residential schools, they were taking native kids away from their natural habitat, putting them in government-run Christian schools, trying to change their language and their faith. 150,000 native kids were put in these schools. 9,000 died of abuse. True story. And they've done things. What I really appreciated, and I'll connect this, Leon, what you did, and I think it's a Greek thing also. When Dr. King walked over Selma Bridge in 1964, there was the Archbishop of the Greek Church, Iakovos, walked, and they told him not to, but he walked because of the human rights element of it. And there was a Jewish rabbi from New York that was beside him also. And my friend said to me, he goes, well, what was it? And there were people who weren't aware of it. On Time magazine, you had Dr. King and Iakovos, at the time was the Archbishop of the Greek Church in America, who walked over the bridge and had death rates. It's a fact. So when you were talking to that man, you made a point, and just along what you were saying, to highlight that, and you showed some pictures of it, the residential schools. You know, they were taking kids from Davis Inlet, Labrador, moving the communities. These kids were sniffing gas and killing themselves because they're taken out of their natural habitats. And the Canadian government in the 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s, and 50s thought they could do this. So I applaud you, because Gord Downey, who was the lead singer of the Tragically Hip, fought for these things. And the fact that you, as a Brit, going through Alaska, Yukon, and Alberta, were able to identify with that and highlight it on your show, I applaud you, because I'm sure a lot of people who saw that can understand that this is, like you said, there was pain there, but the man was still good to you. And I was impressed, because it's like something they tried to cover it up for years. And, you know, being schooled in Canada and understanding and having a lot of friends in the Assembly of First Nations and all that, it's still a sticky problem in Canada. So thank you for that. I really was so impressed when I saw that with that man. And the fact that you had the insight to say, this is what this means, it also educates your audience along your path on kindness.
And thank you for that. And I will say that, to me, the defining reason for why I do what I do is because I want people to understand that we're all the same. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter whether you're a native Canadian, a Native American, from England, from Greece, from Turkey, whatever. Ultimately, we're all the same. We just want to be seen. And if we're all the same, it means that our pain is the same, right? So I wanted him to see that I saw his pain. And it may just have been a little thing, right? But I wanted him to see it and to feel it. And that is why I apologized to him for what happened. Yeah. Now, who am I to apologize? I wasn't alive during those periods of time, but I understood his pain. And I felt like, in order for him to truly be seen and for him to truly understand that I saw him, an apology needed to be made. And that was when he hugged me. And it was such a beautiful, random moment, right? All of this is random. It's not like I stopped on the middle of the road and thought, oh, okay, I want to meet a native Canadian. And then a native Canadian comes and we start talking. It just happened.
So true.
Fascinating.
I'm going to ask you, Leon, because there's one word Greeks have, and I live by it, and it's pretty much unique for Greeks. And I think you exemplify it better than anyone I've seen. And a Philotimo, the love of honor. And I always feel that, aside from what you do in your show, and I like what you just said, because you're saying we're all the same as people. We laugh the same, we cry the same, we have the same pain. But I always found, and we're not many people in the world, the Greeks were what, 11 million in Greece, another 12, 13 million in the world. but I always felt like growing up, and it's just, it's hard to explain it, but I kind of saw it a little bit with Philotimo basically is do the right thing, right? Like do the right thing. And I always remember my mom, have some Philotimo, like have some Philotimo. And my friend said to me one day, what's Philotimo? And I said, it's the love of honor. It's to do the right thing. And when I see that with you, I think it's already there. It doesn't need for you to do the right thing. And that's what you're doing with these people. Do you feel that way about it? Or is it something that...
Absolutely. And look, let's be clear, right? You guys have said a lot of lovely things about me, and I appreciate it, but I'm not perfect, right? So this isn't this isn't like, oh, Leon, you're the kindest guy, you've done this, you've done that. Well, this is the best version of me. And on the kindness dive, it's the best version of me.
Right.
And when I give speeches, it's the best version of me. If you saw the worst version of me, you'd be like, oh, all right, I don't know why I watched that show, because this guy's doing the same thing. And I say that because there is no perfection, and we have to go out in the world and do our best. And our best sometimes isn't good enough, or our best sometimes, doesn't work out the way we want it to work it out. So we think to ourselves, we have to be perfect. We have to be perfect. We have to be like the Dalai Lama. We have to be like Gandhi. Well, I can assure you that the Dalai Lama and Gandhi are not perfect, right?
Nobody is.
No,
I agree. No, nobody is. But that's the thing. I think I love the message that comes through with it. And you're only human. And I get the self-deprecation because, especially coming from England and working with English comics and even Canada, that the joke is, if you want a Canadian to apologize, just step on his foot, right? He'll say sorry. That's Canada. So we're not, like, people say, oh, Canadians will get, but no, Canadians will get upset if there's a hockey game or they run out of beer. Same with a match. I once wore a Man U shirt in Liverpool. The guy gave me a Manchester United shirt, and like a malaka, I'm walking around Liverpool, and it wasn't a game day. So I was walking around, and the guy threw a can at me. And the guy goes, what are you doing? I go, what? I go, it's a cool jersey. The way we wear jerseys in America. No, go back, and they're going to kill us. You can't wear a Man U shirt in Liverpool. What are you, a moron?
So, Angelo, did you walk around with no shirt after that?
I took off my shirt, but then I had a problem with women. No, I went back to the hotel and just covered it up. But it's funny because, and I think the element, that's what makes it good, is that the element of surprise and getting the message across. But I think the world really needs more of it, and I agree with you. Nobody's perfect, and we all have faults. And if you're married and you don't fight, then there's something wrong with your marriage. That's what I think.
I wanted.
You know what I'm saying?
Could I ask one more question? It seemed, from my perspective, what you've done is an extremely brave, and like I don't think I could ever do it. I mean, it's just I have like this something about me. I mean, maybe call me a pessimist, or maybe I don't know what it is. I used to be much more optimistic. As I get older, I get a little more cynical, but like I would just have a fear in me to do what you've done. So you had this kind of epiphany, so to speak. Did you still have like a great fear when you set out on like the first time?
absolutely. I remember when I did the Kindness Diary season 1, walking out of my house, thinking to myself, and this is the PG-13 version, like, oh no, I'm screwed. But by that time it was too late. I'd already set up a crew. I'd already signed, I hadn't signed a deal. I'd already done all these things, and there was no choice. I had to do it. And that's sometimes like a life hack that I do.
Yeah.
I put myself in a situation where I have no choice but to act.
Oh,
because if I don't do that, I will do nothing. Literally.
That's powerful. That's very powerful, because you're basically setting yourself up like do or die. Like, I have to do it. I mean, I have no choice. And it's scary, but I love it. Like, I appreciate
But
it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's exciting, except when it's not.
So true, because first of all, I thought Alaska you're going from the top of the Arctic to the bottom, and having traveled through Canada as a comic, I know what it's like. And those road conditions, and I love your kindness too. He's got the Volkswagen yellow, this awesome VW Beetle, yellow Beetle, and this thing, man, it chugs along. And you're going on these Alaska ice highways, running off the roads and stuff. I mean,
I'm going to tell you a little story. So I still have kindness too. Okay, it's outside my house, and I still drive it around. I live in Venice right now, Venice Beach, and there are times when I will drive it, let's say, to Culver City, right, which is maybe 3 miles away. And as I'm driving it, I'm like, oh my God, I hope the car doesn't blow up. I hope the car doesn't blow up. And then I think to myself, are you insane? You drove that car from Alaska all the way to Argentina. And you talked earlier about the time I went off the road. Now, that wasn't fake. I actually nearly flew off the edge of a cliff, right? Because I lost control of the car. Yet I can't even drive to Culver City without thinking to myself, oh no, what have I done? And that's an example of doing that life hack, which is putting yourself in a situation where you have no choice but to act. Because when I got to Alaska, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? This is madness. I was like, I can't remember I think it's called the Alcon Highway. It was in March, it was winter. The whole road for about 2,000 miles, without exaggeration, was ice.
Jeez.
Yeah? And I was driving this car when I can't even drive it 3 miles down the road. So it's really, I don't know.
I don't know how you did it, Leon. I mean, if a big truck would pass by you, the snow and the thing blinded, and at one time you wiped out into the side of the ditch. And guys, we're talking snow. We're not talking 6 inches.
Oh yeah.
We're talking 4 to 6 feet, 7 feet. And then I remember one time the guy put they linked it up from behind to pull out the car slowly, not rip off your bumper. And even your cameraman had to come out and help push.
Yes.
So you couldn't get the angle because so that's how you know it's stuck. When your cameraman has to get out and help you push.
Yeah.
You must have formed an amazing bond with your crew. Did you know these people beforehand?
100%. I mean, you can't do these kind of things without having that bond. It's just not possible because you're all in situations where, okay, you're not in war, but you're in really difficult situations.
Oh yeah.
Really, really difficult sometimes. You're driving through Colombia where there were bandits that could come and get you and kidnap you and kill you. But we still do it. And is that clever? Probably not. It wouldn't have been clever had we been kidnapped, but it was pretty clever because we weren't kidnapped and the show was good.
Right. Now, I know you had to reroute things. You had to go back and forth because there's like you said, there's you have all kinds of obstacles, military regimes and cartels and all that kind of stuff. Wow. I'm curious because I'm always crazy about animals and wildlife. What kind of wildlife did you encounter from Alaska to Argentina as you were driving? Like, I'm curious.
In Costa Rica, I was nearly eaten by a crocodile. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, right? But okay. I was nearly eaten by a crocodile. When it comes to Canada, you know this better than most. You've got bison, you've got moose, you've got all these crazy things.
Standing right there, like they're standing right there.
Yeah. They're not going to move. They're not going to move. They're like, hey, I ain't moving. But I never really felt threatened by any animals, to be honest.
Great.
But yeah, there's all different types.
I remember driving in we were in going to Lake Louise Jasper, and this 2,000 or 3,000 pound moose just came out in the middle of the highway and stood there. And the guy goes, "What are we gonna do?" I go, "We're gonna wait." "What do you want to do? You want to go move a moose?" And it just stood there looking at us like, "Where are you guys going?" And I find it was so. And that's the thing, And it's exciting because as you're taking people on the journey, like you said, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And I dig that. I think it's awesome because you're taking people on the journey, and yet you're the way you set up the show is phenomenal. And I think that's what makes you like I'm watching it and I'm just waiting for it to go to the next episode. I want to know where you're going now and who you're going to meet. So that anticipation is exciting to me, and that's why it makes it such a great show. But I want to talk to you about your speaking engagements, which I know you do quite a few of, and you've been invited to many conventions and you do a lot of the things on your own. What's the response from people? Like, I mean, for myself as a comedian, my job is just to make people laugh. So when I go there, it's like, we've had a long week, a shitty week at work, and we go to the comedy show to have a couple of bevies and make us laugh, right? How's the response with your speaking engagements? Because I know you're in high demand for that, and that people want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say your job is to make people laugh. And when you said that, I realized that my job is to make people feel.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if I give a speech where I make someone feel, and I sense the energy of the room, and they're feeling my stories, and they're connected to their humanity, then I've done a good job. And if I'm having a bad day and I fail to make them feel, then I haven't done my job.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I think a lot of times, like they always say, it's easier to make someone cry than it is to make them laugh, because you need intelligence. And I think the thing that you bring to it, and I'm sure with your speaking engagements, is that they want to hear the stories. I find a lot of times, and especially now, because with COVID, you go to the grocery store. How was it? Did you get milk? I mean, everybody's so like, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm going kind of crazy. What's coming up for you, Leon? Like, I know because of what's going on in the world now, I know there was some other projects that you were looking to do. Where do you want to go with it?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're editing a project where a documentary where where I went to India to find God, and realized that I didn't need to go to India to find God. But that's it's a documentary that'll hopefully come out at the end of the year. We're working on some travel shows, which we shot prior to COVID, but a lot has stopped. We were going to do a season 3 of the Kindness Diaries, and that kind of stopped, because how can you do the Kindness Diaries when you can't hug someone? Mm-hmm. How can you do the Kindness Diaries when you can't randomly go into someone's house? So, it's proving to be a little bit challenging, but it's fine. I still get to do speeches. Well, not in person, but virtual. I still get to connect. And maybe from a personal standpoint, I get to stop. And sometimes stopping is the most important thing that we can do.
Yeah.
So true.
That's a very good point right there.
No, it's so true. It's no, I like the idea that, and I'm waiting for Kindness Diaries 3, because I just love the fucking show so much. It's just, it really is. I mean, it's something. I get, what it is for me, Leon. I get bored. Like a lot of shows you watch now, and I've been home now. I was usually on the road so many days of the year, so now I'm home, which is good to be with the family. But I just find a lot of times, a lot of shows tend to repeat themselves for me. I'm not interested in them. It's not, it's a love story or this guy or a Mexican gun cartel or whatever. I mean, I've seen them now. The ones I love the best now on Netflix is your show and Fauda about Israeli counterintelligence.
Oh, wow.
This shit goes down every episode, man, on the West Bank, and they're going on and stuff, So that's what I like. And I find now, do you find now how, as what you told us with COVID, how else has COVID affected you personally? Like, how do you feel about what's been happening?
Clearly having nearly 500,000 Americans dead is just insanity. If a year and a half ago, I had told you that 500,000 American people were going to die because of a pandemic that you couldn't leave your house over, you'd be like, you're insane. This is a Hollywood movie. So from that perspective, it's been a catastrophe, right? So that's the macro. The micro for me, to be honest, I'm an introvert. Yeah, you may not think that when you look at the show. You're like, oh my God, the guy's so fun and happy and loves the world. Yes, I may love the world, but I'm introverted. So to have to stay at home isn't such a problem. It's okay. I get energized by staying at home. My partner, she gets energized by going out. So everyone reacts differently. I'm a student of history. I've seen, I had family members in the Blitz. I've been to Auschwitz. I've, seen all the things I've seen. So, and I think to myself, well, hold on, if they can survive this, then I can survive this, right? And many of us, because of the society we live in, specifically in the Western world, have never really had to touch that. They've never really had to touch that darkness. So if something bad happens or their Instagram fails, they're going to have a total meltdown.
Yep, and they have.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that like for a year I've been like a Zen master who hasn't had any meltdowns. Of course, I have had meltdowns, right? But less than they would be if I hadn't seen the world. If I hadn't been like, well, hold on, if my aunt can survive the Blitz, then I can survive this.
Wait, do you mean to tell me that people could wear a mask and be okay? Because so many people would refuse to wear a mask because it's infringement on their rights and so on and so forth, which again goes back to my previous comment. Like, I wish more people could experience the world and see what other peoples have suffered, and this can be so much more doable without all the pain.
Let me tell you how to change, how to affect change in America. Just America, right? I'm English Greek, so what do I know about America? But there are two ways to change America. One, everyone go to Auschwitz. Everyone, right? Yeah. And two, go to an Indian slum. And go and see how on the outside it looks horrific, but on the inside, there is so much community. There is so much love. And you will never complain again about a barista putting the wrong type of milk in your Starbucks. And if you do complain, you will quickly be like, oh, okay, all right, it's not the end of the world. They put the wrong type of milk in my Starbucks. No worries, let's go and get it changed.
Yeah. You're 100% right. 100% right.
Would we call those first world problems?
Yep.
Yes.
And a lot of self-entitlement. And
it's funny Leon said that. I had a friend of mine, he showed up, he goes, I'm having a bad day. I go, what happened? He says, well, I went to the Beamer dealership. And he goes, I drive a 7 Series, right? I go, yeah. And he goes, well, they did they had to give me a loaner for the day, and they gave me a 3 Series. Okay.
Did he survive?
Yeah, I go, okay, what's the problem? He goes,
did anybody see him?
Dude. And I said to him, I go, oh my God, and I was being sarcastic, of course. I said, oh my God, that's horrible. So they replaced your 7 Series with a 3 Series. I said to him, what about your image? And then you know what? He realized after, he goes, okay, I get it. I'm being an asshole. I go, yeah, you're being an asshole.
A little bit.
You need to check some people sometimes, right? They need to be kept in check. All of us, I think. Absolutely. All of us.
Yeah.
We need to be kept in check, but
I'm very much a person who believes that people have to experience more. Somebody who's never left their 1 or 2 square mile radius of their small town is just not going to get it.
True.
But it's also, how could they get it if they never experience things? So it's a tricky thing, because I really believe that they need to experience things, and their whole outlook on life would change. But then when they don't have those opportunities, can you blame them? It's like, I don't know. It's like a tricky situation, but we have a lot of that here in the States, and it causes a lot of problems. And I really would like, but you have a show on Netflix. Everybody has access to this, or most people have access to this. They need to watch this type of stuff. They need to experience things. If they can't do it in person, do it virtually. I mean, they need the exposure because like we said, it's such a problem now.
I have a question for Leon. Do you think the way you see the world now is worse than it was before? As far as interactions and people's perceptions and the humanity aspect and the kindness aspect, do you think we live in a world where that is lost?
Look, I don't think we live in a world where it's lost. All you have to do is get on an aeroplane and go all around the world. And what you will notice is that 99.99% of people have a goodness flowing through them. Yes, they can also have flip outs, right? Like everyone.
Right.
But there are those people, and some of those people are in power, who play on people's fears, who play on people's insecurities, who play on the fact that they've never been on an airplane, who can say things that will rile people up. And that's dangerous. That is dangerous. I grew up with stories of my grandfather in El Alamein. I grew up with stories of Winston Churchill, fighting against, not literally, but fighting against the Nazis. And these kind of things are real. I'm sorry, they're real. And if you don't wake up and see that they're real, one day when you do wake up, it will not be pleasant.
Yep. I feel like we've experienced a little bit of that type of thing. And
Exactly.
people need to be educated. People need to experience.
This has been so much fun with you, Leon. And I feel like I'm so happy that you were able to come on our podcast today. I want to let people know that they can find you. I love your website, leonlogothetis.com. Excellent freaking website. You guys got to check that out because I was looking through it. I was Zilava, like, Jesus Christ, good. And it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. I'm a big fan of the show, and I think our people watching should watch the show. It's on Netflix. You're on Amazon and Nat Geo, but before we let you go, Leon, we do a little thing. Forty does a little thing. It's just a personal question thing about your side of Greek, and we do it with every guest, so we have a little bit of fun with it. So
Who told you I was Greek?
The last name was deceiving.
Yeah.
I'll give it that 40. I'll see
Awesome.
can take it from.
Thank you very much, Angelo. Leon, this has been an honor and a pleasure. I truly enjoyed the time that we've had together to listen to you, and you really put things into perspective for us, for sure. But as Angelo said, as our show Connecting Greeks, as we bring Greeks from all over the world, from different backgrounds, to truly show that even as Greeks, we're all the same. We have similar upbringings. And a couple of questions we have for you is, growing up in London as a Greek Brit, can you tell us your favorite and least favorite Greek food?
Well, my favorite food before I became vegan was pasticcio.
All right.
And to be honest with you, I don't really have a non-favorite Greek food.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty epic.
Good for you.
Awesome.
You like horta, don't you, Leon?
Oh, actually, horta, he's right. I don't like horta. Forget it.
Wait, you're a vegan and you don't like horta?
I know. Even vegans don't eat horta. I'm going to get sued by the Greek Horta Foundation.
Was it because of the stories that we've listened to as our parents would like pull off to the side of the highway to pick off the side of the road? Is that what the reason?
I think it's that, and that it doesn't taste very good.
All right, excellent.
I agree.
Next question for you, Leon. And then growing up, in a Greek household, any sayings from your parents that have really stuck with you growing up that you can share with us?
Greek sayings or just sayings generally?
Greek sayings.
Greek sayings.
they could be bad or good.
That guy's a malaka, maybe.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I think
that's when your mom met Angelo, right?
No, I don't think so.
That's funny.
You know, as a
That's a
Greek,
good
you know,
one.
as you know, growing up, my mom used to always say every time I left the house, "Tamatia su ekato." Right?
My mom said Decatesera, 14.
Yeah, I thought
My
that was
my mom never trusted me, so it had to be 100.
yeah. I thought it had to be like some sort of like
You
four version.
translate that your eyeballs 100.
Yeah, she wants him to be some
Maybe your
weird.
mother was smoking weed. So your eyeballs 100.
There you go. And then the last question for you, Leon, is you know, we talk about the spiritual aspect in Greek as Greeks. We're very superstitious in our Greek culture. You know, I lived through so much superstition growing up. I had to be careful with a lot of things. Any superstition that maybe you still live by as a Greek?
Oh God, there's a lot, right? There's 7 years of hell if you break a mirror.
Yeah,
There's touch wood and everything will work out. I
yeah.
remember once this is bad. So my mother would always tell us that killing a spider was bad luck, right?
Yeah, I've heard
So
that.
I never killed spiders, but my partner doesn't like spiders. And she's
no.
always like, "You've got to kill the spider. You've got to kill the spider." I'm like, "I can't kill the spider. If I kill the spider, I'm screwed." And she's like, "No, if you don't kill the spider, you're screwed." So I'm like, "Oh, okay," because she doesn't like spiders. So I have killed enough spiders to cause a serious problem.
Can you fake the death maybe with the spiders that way?
Yeah, it's interesting. My brother once supposedly killed a spider and he was sent up to his room. And then we found out the spider didn't die. So he was brought back.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
Well, thank you very much, Leon.
Yeah, Leon,
right.
we want to thank you so much. I mean, it's been a pleasure listening to you. I 100% am going to check out everything you do because I looked at your website briefly, you know, as part of the research, but you know, after talking to you, it hit so much more to the heart, and I'm very interested in what you've done, and I think it's amazing. And we're going to link up everything on the show, and we want to thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And look, let's do this if you want. That is that I will give you guys, I'll send you 25 books, Go Be Kind books, which is a journal I wrote about kindness. And you guys can give them out to your listeners. For free.
Absolutely.
That'd be wonderful.
Love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's very kind. Thanks, Leon. That's awesome.
Oh my
I'm
God,
sure
yeah.
a lot of our fans would love that. And I think that's an awesome gift to give out to some of our fans.
That's amazing.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Thank you, Leon.
Once again, Foti, thank you for being with us. Angelo, as always, a pleasure. Leon, once again, 100 thank yous. Listening to you was amazing. I can't wait to dive more into what you've done and your life and your speaking. We appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
It's
And
my
thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you, everybody out there, for watching and listening. Check out the podcast and the video, and we'll link up all of Leon's information. So thank you, everyone. Foti, Angelo, Leon, once again, thank you, and have a
guys.
good night.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.